I never imagined that answering a simple job posting would change the course of my life forever. I had been working as a nurse for years, mostly in small clinics and home care assignments. But nothing prepared me for the day I walked into the Harrington estate. The mansion was vast, the kind of place you only see in glossy magazines, with marble floors that echoed with every step and chandeliers that glittered even in the daylight. Yet, despite all its grandeur, it felt lifeless, cold, almost haunted. I was told I would be caring for Mr. Edward Harrington, a billionaire known to the world as a ruthless tycoon, but to me, he was simply a frail man standing on the edge of life. When I first met him, he barely spoke, his body was weak, his hands trembling as he clutched a blanket despite the warmth of the room. But what struck me most was his eyes. They weren't the eyes of a powerful man who had conquered industries and built empires. They were the eyes of someone carrying unbearable regret. He didn't need just medical attention. He needed companionship, someone to see him not as a billionaire, but as a man. In the weeks that followed, I became more than his caregiver. I became his listener. Every morning, I sat by his side as he recounted bits of his life. He spoke of boardrooms and deals, the billions he earned, the rivals he defeated. But often, in the middle of these stories, his voice would falter, and a silence would stretch between us. I could see there was something left unsaid, a wound that money could not heal. At first, I didn't push him. But as the days grew shorter and his health deteriorated, I sensed that he needed, to unburden himself. One stormy night, as the rain hammered against the windows, Edward's voice broke through the sound. He said, "There's something I never told anyone. Something I've carried my whole life." His thin hand gripped mine with surprising strength. I had a daughter. A daughter I abandoned when she was just a child. His eyes glistened with tears, his chest heaving as if each word weighed him down. She was the only person I truly loved, but I walked away because I thought power was more important. And I've regretted it every single day since. I didn't know what to say. Here was a man who had everything the world could offer. Yet he was broken by the one thing he couldn't buy back: time with his daughter. I stayed silent, letting him cry, because I knew in that moment he didn't need answers, just presence. From that night on, he spoke more openly. He described her vividly, the way her laughter used to fill his small apartment, the little songs she would hum when she was nervous. He even remembered the day she asked him why he worked so late, and he told her, "So you'll never go hungry." But she did go hungry, not for food but for his love, and he left her. Weeks later, Edward passed away. I was there, holding his hand as he drew his final breath. It was peaceful, but my heart ached because I knew he was leaving with unfinished business. I thought that was the end of my time with him, but in truth, it was only the beginning. A month later, I received a call from the Harrington family's lawyer. He asked me to be present for the reading of the will. I hesitated, unsure why I would be needed, but curiosity led me back to that mansion. The room was filled with Edward's relatives, greedy faces, some feigning sorrow, others unable to hide their eagerness. They whispered among themselves, speculating about the fortune they believed was theirs. I sat quietly in the corner, a mere caregiver among sharks. When the lawyer began to read, the atmosphere shifted. He spoke of Edward's assets, billions in investments, properties across the globe, priceless art collections. Then came the words that froze the air. "I, Edward Harrington, leave my entire estate to my daughter, my lost daughter." The room erupted. Gasped shouts, accusations flew in every direction. His relatives demanded answers, their voices rising in outrage. Who was this daughter? Where was she? None of them had ever heard of her. The lawyer simply explained that Edward had left instructions and evidence proving her existence, but her identity remained sealed until she came forward. I sat in stunned silence. I thought of the nights Edward whispered about his regrets, the tears in his eyes, the pain in his voice. He had done the one thing he could to make amends. He had given everything to the daughter he once abandoned. It wasn't just money. It was his final confession, his redemption. In the weeks that followed, the search for his daughter dominated the news. Reporters camped outside the estate, speculating endlessly. Some believed she would never appear, that perhaps she had passed away, or that Edward had fabricated her existence in delirium. Others saw it as a cruel twist of fate, denying his relatives the fortune they had long expected. But I, having heard his confession firsthand, believed she was real. Somewhere out there, a woman who had grown up without a father would soon learn that she had been remembered, after all. Months later, she appeared. I'll never forget the moment I saw her for the first time. She was not dressed like someone stepping into unimaginable wealth. She wore simple clothes, her hair pulled back neatly, her eyes wide with disbelief. She clutched a letter, Edward's letter, left for her by the lawyer. I wasn't privy to the words, but I saw her shoulders shake as sheaming down her face. She didn't look like someone who cared about billions. She looked like a little girl who had finally been told that her father had loved her, even if imperfectly. Edward Harrington's fortune had been a weapon in life, used to build, to control, to dominate. But in death, it became something else entirely, a bridge. A bridge between the father who had lost his way and the daughter who had lived in his shadow. She chose to accept the inheritance, not out of greed, but as a way to honor his final wish. She started foundations in his name, helping abandoned children, building schools for those who needed them most. She turned his fortune into something he never managed to do in life. A legacy of love. As for me, I wasn't left with money or property. His will mentioned me briefly, thanking me for my care and leaving a small stipend to continue my nursing work. But I didn't need more than that. I had witnessed something extraordinary, a man's final act of redemption. Edward Harrington taught me that no matter how powerful or wealthy you become, what defines you in the end is not the empire you built but the love you gave, or failed to give. Even now, years later, I sometimes walk past the old Harrington estate. It no longer feels cold. The gates that once symbolized power and isolation are now open to children running, laughing, playing in the gardens that have been turned into community spaces. His daughter did what he never could, she gave the mansion life. And every time I see it, I remember the frail old man who whispered his regrets into the night, and how in the end, he found a way to say, "I'm sorry, I loved you." That is the true inheritance, not the billions, not the jewels or the mansions, but the chance to heal, to forgive, and to turn regret into love that lasts beyond death.